that's fine. Then you can go ahead.
Okay, so hello everyone. First of all, I would like to thank you all for having me. I hope all of you are doing well. And my name is Milos Dimitrijevic, and I come from Serbia. So for those of you who may not know, Serbia is a country in the Balkan region in Eastern Europe. And I am a university student and a part-time English teacher, actually, and the majority of my students are actually Japanese. However, today I would like to speak to you as a student rather than as a teacher. So I am in my third year of at the Faculty of Media and Communications, where I am majoring in communications and public relations. In our lectures, we have the opportunity to learn and discuss the way culture, and more specifically popular culture, is formed, or rather the way it forms us, and how the impact it has tends to go unnoticed. I am very interested in this field, and it is basically the reason why I enrolled in this university. And here we are encouraged to use the knowledge we are offered to make connections with our personal interests and see how we as well can be oblivious to the world constructed for us by media. So even though it might seem my topic is coming a little bit out of left field, I would like to take this opportunity to present some of the things we learned about and perhaps strike up a conversation. I also believe it is very important to learn about the popular culture of a certain country or society as well, in order to understand it better. Therefore, today, I would like to explain why I think it is important to discuss media icons and their impact. And as an example, I will use Kylie Minogue. So to begin with, because we are usually taught this at the university, we have to establish a discourse. And I would like to begin by referring to Francesco Alberoni and his text about the so-called powerless elite. It was in this text where he went into a detailed explanation of how certain people in society become influential, or the elite. And when he calls them powerless, he is actually referring to the lack of institutional power they have, meaning they don't often have any institutions backing them up or holding them responsible, which is often much more important. But they still have an incredible impact on society and the way they behave and think. And today we see these figures as most often influencers in the shape of YouTubers, singers, rappers, actors, etc. And also, I think it's very interesting how we call them stars, icons, or with the enormous popularity of Korean pop music known as K-pop, or Japanese pop music called as referred to as J-pop. We call them idols very often. And these are all the things we worship or idolize or look up to. So for my example, I decided to choose the Australian singer Kylie Minogue. I was debating choosing someone like Madonna, Michael Jackson, or even Lady Gaga, but I found that a lot of people already chose them for their case studies. And to me, Kylie is just as interesting as any of them. So a brief bio about Kylie, I guess. So she was born in Australia in 1968 and came into the spotlight as an actress on the TV show Neighbours as the character Charlene. She launched her singing career soon after, and her first song was I Should Be So Lucky. It became an instant success and presented her as a very young, sweet, innocent girl. And this image would be the one most people would come to associate with Kylie in the early stages of her career. However, as some of you may know, many musical artists actually undergo so-called evolutions or metamorphoses of their identity. Here, I would just briefly like to refer to Stuart Hall, who was a very significant sociologist and cultural theorist, and mention his description of the idea of identity in postmodernism. He said that the postmodern subject is conceptualized as having no fixed, essential, or permanent identity, meaning it's fluid and basically ever-changing. He also mentioned that the subject assumes different identities at different times, identities which are not unified around the coherent self. And to the fully unified, completed, and secure and coherent identity is actually a fantasy. So basically, there is no identity we always maintain. It's basically something that keeps evolving and changing. And with this in mind, I would like to talk about the metamorphosis of Kylie's identity and her image. The metamorphosis of Kylie's identity and her the Kylie's identity and her image experience, pardon, over the 5 decades of her career. In her career, people would label her as different types of Kylie, starting from cute Kylie to sexy Kylie to dance Kylie, gothic Kylie, indie Kylie, dance Kylie, etc. But I would say that this change doesn't come as much of a shock to many people, since most people experience changes in their lives. Our tastes, interests, and behavior evolve or change over time. And I'm sure every one of us has experienced an awkward phase in their lives. And if you feel like you haven't, well, maybe you're just going through it right now. But since Kylie has published 15 studio albums and is the first woman to top the official UK album charts in 5 different decades, unfortunately, I will not be able to go into all of these eras in depth. So this one moment that caught the attention of people worldwide might have been in 2001, when the world caught the so-called Kylie fever. Even though she had been gaining massive success in Australia and Europe, this is very often regarded as the year Kylie broke America and subsequently the world. It was with the release of her album called Fever, and specifically the song Can't Get You Out of My Head, which some of you may know, and indeed many people could not get it out of their heads. And it brought a lot of attention to Kylie. It has everything a textbook pop music earworm should have. It has a dance beat, a catchy hook involving some la la la's, and a memorable music video to accompany it. And since I briefly mentioned how celebrities are often looked up to, and some might even say worshipped, a special era I would like to mention is the one in which Kylie establishes a strong bond with the Greek goddess Aphrodite. It began with the Aphrodite album, which was Kylie's 11th studio album and continued for the duration of the tour that followed. Aphrodite is an ancient Greek goddess, as some of you may know, associated with love, beauty, pleasure, passion, and procreation, or the goddess Venus in ancient Rome, hence the Botticelli's birth of Venus right here. And Aphrodite's major symbols include myrtles, roses, doves, sparrows, and swans. Her main festivals was the Aphrodisia, which was celebrated annually in midsummer. But what I also found interesting that in Laconia, Aphrodite was actually worshipped as a warrior goddess, and that did not go unreferenced by Kylie herself, as the lyrics of her Aphrodite single go, I am fierce, and I'm feeling mighty, I'm a golden girl, I'm an Aphrodite. And one of the reasons Kylie strongly associated herself with the goddess might actually be because of the events that happened in 2005. So it was in this year that the image of the so-called warrior Kylie was created. On May 17th, it was announced that Kylie was diagnosed with breast cancer. And there is research done actually, which found that the news coverage of Kylie's breast cancer diagnosis, oh, sorry, it skipped a slide. Oh, it skipped three. Okay. It was announced that this diagnosis, the research showed that the news coverage of the diagnosis caused an unprecedented increase in bookings for mammography, and the numbers showed that there was a 20-fold increase in younger women. And it showed that her impact at the current time, especially in the UK, was truly undeniable. So continuing, oh yeah, okay, one slide at a time. Aphrodite had several temples built in her honor. And since we're already drawing a parallel between Kylie and Aphrodite, if I had to, I'd say that Kylie's temple would be the disco, or rather its dance floor. It is a very common motif throughout Kylie's discography, and she presents dancing as a source of freedom and a way to escape. Even her latest album was named Disco, which perfectly matched the current musical trend, which incorporates the retro sound in some of the most popular songs of the current mainstream culture, as I'm sure you can hear if you open your Spotify and search the top 10 in basically any countries, starting from Dua Lipa, The Weeknd, and other mainstream music. It was also in this era that Kylie fully embodied Aphrodite in the song All the Lovers. She provides a getaway for people to express their freedom, specifically sexual freedom. This propelled her popularity among women and especially the LGBTQ plus community. There was even a reference to the symbolism of the dove I mentioned earlier in the music video, symbolizing freedom and the complete state of kind of well, basically freedom and freedom of expression. Next, there is also a very interesting text by Anthony Motet called Semiology of the Gay Icon, The Paradoxes of the Gender. At least I think it's very interesting because it's in French. And seeing as I haven't really used my French since high school, understanding semiotics theory in French does present some challenges. But basically, if you're willing to take my word for it, he also stresses the fact that we refer to these individuals as something to be worshipped, saying how tricky defining something can be in the first place, especially when involving objects of worship. Nevertheless, with the help of a dictionary and the current uses of the term, we first note that the icon is not limited by time and is evolving in a continuous present. The icon is akin to a state of grace. It embodies the present and is frozen in a state of representation. He continues to say that common sense defines an icon as a celebrity or artist having an impact on society, regardless of sex, gender, or sexual orientation. And by extension, a gay icon would be a personality, gay or not, with a particular impact on LGBTQ plus communities, such as Liz Taylor, as we have here, well known for her involvement in the fight against AIDS, and who, like many other heterosexual cisgender women, has always played on a hyper sophistication of her appearance. Hyper sophistication, which reveals the ritual, artifactual, and constructed dimension of femininity. And it is because this idea of femininity, I would like to bring up one of my last points. During my research and in everyday life as well, I often came across certain statements that try to imply that femininity is somehow less worthy. We have come to associate masculinity with dominance, power, and control, and femininity with weakness, disinterest, and passivity. It can often be seen in modern feminism as well. Very often, when someone says the word feminist, a certain image tends to form in some people's minds of a woman with short colored hair that refuses to shave, which can be totally okay. However, it is much more important to note that the opinion that femininity and feminism are in no way mutually exclusive. It is actually within her femininity that Kylie found her voice and established her status as a gay icon. And here we can see a quote that compares Madonna and Kylie Minogue, where Madonna actually tried to establish herself as more dominant by wearing suits and by presenting herself as more masculine, while Kylie fully embraced her femininity and what it means to be female, which I do think is very important, especially with the current political climate regarding gender inequality in most countries, as I do try to stay up to date with news in most countries as I can. But nevertheless, in this presentation, I really tried to encompass a little bit of everything we study at university, at least in my department, from culture studies to sociology and anthropology, semiotics and semantics, all the way to gender studies and current political issues. Like I mentioned earlier, I do think it's important to analyze the current mainstream media because whether we like it or not, it is the reflection of the current state of our society. Specifically, influencers seem to be multiplying by day on various social media sites and applications. And before, becoming famous entailed much more than a smartphone or a computer and a stable internet connection. For my example, I personally chose Kylie as a positive example of a media icon, but I am sure various concerns have been raised in each of our countries over the influence these newly found celebrities have in our day and age. Being a YouTuber even ended up as one of the most desirable careers for young children, as seems to be very easy and can, I guess, make a lot of money and fun as well. But it does come with its fair share of responsibility. So therefore, even though it might seem frivolous to discuss about Kylie Minogue and other pop singers and them singing about the dance floor, I do think it's important to think twice about who we idolize and who has a platform. One of the key things about things that go mainstream is their ability to reach many people. And some of them might not have enough of a critical way of thinking to question why they should listen. I always thought it was interesting to see people take beauty advice from influencers who are already beautiful, or diet advice from people who have been the same weight for a very long time. Insert Kate Moss here or any other model from the 90s, and developing unrealistic expectations and feeling miserable because they didn't achieve the image they were, in a way, promised. So, with that said, I would like to thank you all for listening and invite you to share any questions, comments, or concerns. I would love to hear who you consider to be media icons in your country or in the world and why. Does your country have idols? What is their relationship with the media? What is their influence on society? Does it differ? And anything.